the Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and can I add my sincere condolences with those of other members who have spoken in this debate, to those who've had loved ones ripped from their arms by the terrible events of the last few weeks, to those that are still suffering and still recovering from the floods, the fires and the cyclone that have devastated so many parts of Australia this terrible summer. It's very clear, Mr Deputy Speaker, that the worst of times bring out the best in us, and we've seen evidence of that in the truckloads over the last few weeks. We've seen that from the men and women of the Defence Force, on the ground, in the air, those that have been maintaining our Black Hawks, our Chinooks, our Sea Kings, our C-130s and C-17s, our Bushmasters. We've seen that in the incredible work of all the emergency services personnel, of the work of local councillors and frontline healthcare workers, people, and they've been mentioned previously in this debate, who volunteered their time to set up emergency facilities and feed people. We've seen it in the work of the people of Brisbane, the people that have opened their arms and picked up brooms and picked up shovels, picked up mops to help out total strangers whose homes have been damaged by the floods. We're a good people, Mr Deputy Speaker, a good people in an unforgiving land. And when bad things happen, we're capable of doing some amazing things. We saw evidence of that not just in the streets of Brisbane or the streets of Rockhampton or Tully or elsewhere. We also saw it many miles away in the streets of my own electorate, in the streets of Bankstown. We felt it through our TV sets. We sat glued night after night in disbelief when we saw floodwaters rising through Rockhampton and then through the CBD of Brisbane. We sat shocked at the sight of cars being washed down the road through the streets of Toowoomba by raging floodwaters. And I remember on the 2nd of February, the night before Cyclone Yasi came through far north Queensland, just as I was going to bed, thinking what would happen when I woke up, and would the people of far north Queensland still be alive when I woke up the next morning? Our response so many miles away has been one of incredible and overwhelming generosity. On the 14th of January, I went to my local train station, Bankstown train station, with some local SES volunteers to raise some money for the victims of the floods. I was hoping that between 6:30 and 8 we'd raise around $500. I was stunned when we raised more than $3,000 in just those 2.5 hours. So we decided, well, that's not good enough. Let's keep going. And we went to Bankstown Centro, our local shopping centre. We had people throwing $50 notes at us. We had one man give us $500 cash. Lots of people emptying their purse, just with every coin that they had in their purse to give to us. Lots of mums, lots of grandmums who'd give a $2 coin or a $5 note to their grandchildren and ask them to come up to us and put that money in our tin. Others apologised just that they didn't have any money to give. Now, I think in large part the reason that people were so generous was because of the way what they saw on television affected them. But another reason they came to us was because standing next to me were men and women in orange uniforms, the men and women of the SES. That's why they reacted in such a powerful way, and it reminded me the respect with which the people of the SES are held by our community. I'd like to use this opportunity, if I could, just to mention some of those men and women who helped me over the course of those 3 days. Michelle Niven, Denise Lynch, David Johnston, the incredible Jordan Ross, who got one donation for $500, Aline O'Hay, Kathleen O'Hay, Stuart Miller, Carol Bassam and David Drake. And Carol and David aren't in Bankstown anymore. They're up in far north Queensland helping out with the clean-up after Cyclone Yasi. And they'll be joined by 4 others from Bankstown SES soon. This is just one example of the generosity of spirit of the people of my community. There have been many others, many organisations putting together fundraisers at short notice. It's not unique to Bankstown. I'm sure many members have had the same experience in their own communities. But I want to pay tribute to them and their generosity and the time they've taken. The Lebanese Muslim organisation raised $15,000. Bankstown City Council cheque for $20,000. Bankstown Sports Club They came forward with a cheque for $25,000 and $20,000 worth of furniture. Bunnings at Bankstown, they raised $3,900 through a sausage sizzle. Bankstown Lions Club, about $5,000. The United Muslim Women's Association, $10,000. Bankstown RSL, $8,000. The Gallipoli Mosque at Auburn, $12,000. Vietnam Sydney Radio, $45,000. I spent 2 hours on the radio urging people to donate. We got $10,000 in 2 hours, including one little girl who was 8 years old who rang up to donate $50. And I said, well, why are you donating? And she said, well, it's what I saw on television. I need to help people like me. And I thought that was really touching. The Vietnamese Australian charity organisation held an event called the Golden Heart 2 Charity Dinner. Now, they've done this before. Golden Heart Charity Dinner was first held after the bushfires 2 years ago, and they raised $50,000 on that night. Well, the call went out, the invitations went out. 1,000 people responded to that invitation within 3 or 4 days. It was all sold out. They had 200 or 300 people that they couldn't fit in. People said they just wanted to stand at the back of the room. They raised $145,000 in one night. And let me use this opportunity to thank the man who organised that, Dr. Vin Bin Lu, who subsequently was named the Bankstown Citizen of the Year. Can I also thank the Chinese Association of Western Sydney? They held a similar event and raised more than $120,000 in one night, including one donation from a gentleman named Henry Ney, the owner of a company called ABC Tissues. His donation, $50,000. I went to a Chinese Lunar New Year event hosted by the New South Wales Indochina Chinese Association last Saturday. It was a week after Cyclone Yasi had torn through far north Queensland. And I told them that as that cyclone hit far north Queensland, it hit around about midnight on the 2nd of February. Now, that's an important date because it's also New Year's Eve for our Chinese and Vietnamese friends. It meant that we were moving from the Year of the Tiger to the Year of the Rabbit. The Year of the Tiger is supposed to be a ferocious year. The Year of the Rabbit is supposed to be one that's calmer, and certainly the Year of the Tiger has been a very ferocious year. And I told them that I'd like to think that that cyclone wasn't as deadly as we feared that it might have been, because just as it struck, we moved from the Year of the Tiger to the Year of the Rabbit. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I hope it is, and I hope that we have a calmer year after the ferocity of the last few months. That day, they raised themselves another $20,000. There are many other organisations who I haven't mentioned, whose work I'm not aware of at the moment. But what I do know is the people of Bankstown and the people of Cabramatta already have raised close to $500,000 for their fellow Australians. And we're not a wealthy community. I'm proud of the way Australians have responded in the worst of times over the last few weeks, this terrible summer, and I'm proud of our community for the way that we have responded. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.